Hello and welcome to Tap That MTG, the show where we tell you everything we know about Magic that's probably wrong, but fun to talk about anyways.
Super fun.
I'm Shauna.
I'm Leslie.
And today we are bringing you
Da, 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 da.
Throne of Eldraine pre-release, talking about crazy cards. So in our video, we are not going to talk about the rares and mythic rares because, let's face it, you've already seen them all on Twitter. And if you're going to, out of 6 packs, you're going to probably have
6.
Well, you will have 6, but you probably only have 3 or so that you're going to want to try to work around. And so, yeah, those are probably going to be your bombs.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're not going to talk about any of those, but we are going to go through and talk about all the commons and uncommons, those tools, like we've done in our previous videos, those tools that you're going to get in your packs.
Because let's face it, like really when you win a pre-release or when you win a game, it's because of the commons and uncommons that you have in your deck. You
staying alive.
Only have 3 cards maybe in your deck that are rare that you can use. You're probably only going to get 2 that you can actually fit in your deck. So then the commons and uncommons are what make the deck.
They do the work.
And so that's what we're talking about.
You might even go the whole pre-release without ever seeing your bombs.
Yes, exactly.
It happens.
It happens to me every single time.
It happens.
That's my luck.
So we're going to talk about the uncommons and commons that you're going to want to watch out for and why you'd want to watch out for them and what you could do with them potentially. So,
but first,
yes,
what is pre-release for those of you that are just joining us?
Fun.
If you've never been to a pre-release, we highly, highly recommend it. It's one of the most fun formats, in my opinion. I think Shauna would agree.
Yes.
It is a sealed event, which means you're going to go to the event. You don't have to take anything with you if you don't want to. If you, maybe at the end of the video, we'll talk about some things that you could bring with you if you wanted to, but you can just show up that day with the knowledge that you have in your brain based on this video, and you will be perfectly fine.
You're going to have fun anyways.
Because you're going to get 6 packs, and in your pre-release pack will also be a turn down counter, so you have a way of keeping track of your life, and your local game store will be providing you with the land that you need to build your deck. So what happens at pre-release? Well,
I don't know. What happens?
First, you're going to open up all 6 of your packs.
Woohoo.
You're going to sort them into colors. That's at least, this is my process. I sort them into colors so that I know kind of where I'm at color-wise. I'm going to pull out, as I'm sorting them, some of those cards that I think are reasonable to put in my decks based on what we're going to tell you in a few minutes. So then I'm going to build a 40 card deck. It's going to have probably around 17 land in it. That's a good color. And there's a little insert in your thing that says how to build a deck. Yeah. So if you forget this, it's okay. You don't have to take notes. You don't have to write it down. You get a little piece of paper that tells you all of this information. I would recommend that you build a 2-color deck. If you can go monocolored, this is the set to do it. Most of the stuff that you put in your deck is going to be creature based. There is definitely room for instants and sorceries and maybe enchantments and artifacts, especially with this set. But mostly creatures because you're going to want to be aggressive and fast. And then if you can satisfy some of the categories that we're going to talk about, then you will win pre-release. We guarantee it. No, we don't guarantee it. But bread is what we're talking about.
Yes.
Now, bread is an acronym that is used in sealed events, mostly in draft, but it works very well for this as well. So B is for bombs, R is for removal, E is for evasion, A is for aggro, and D is for dudes. Some people say duds, but we like dudes. And if you follow them in that order, then of importance, then as you're building your deck, it should flesh out fairly easily. So the first section is bombs. And Sean is going to start us off with bombs. So tell us, what is a bomb? What makes something in this category?
Right. Well, bombs are cards that if you play them and they don't deal with them, you're going to win the game. So like a 6/6 flyer would be a bomb because if they don't get rid of that thing, they're going to be dead pretty quickly in only a couple of turns. So Usually they're a higher cost item because again, it usually is happening at the end of the game. It's how you finish off the game.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of those rares and mythic rares are classified as bombs.
How many bombs should you put in?
Like
10?
One or two.
Uh-huh.
If you got more than that, awesome, but really not very many. Because again,
lack of focus.
Yes, lack of focus.
Means losing.
Means losing. For sure, especially with this set. So we have a couple little uncommons that we thought would be classified as a bomb that you might want to think about.
Because most of the stuff in this category is really your rares and mythics.
Yeah.
You've seen all those. We're not talking about those, but there are some uncommons.
Yeah. So one of our first ones, Sir Alan, the Lion's Claw. It is a 4/4 for 3 and 2 white. So that 2 white makes me kind of worried, but we will talk about how this set might make you not worry about that as much as normal. So first strike 4/4 is really hard to stop, and whenever he attacks, other creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So that's just going to be really, really aggressive. He is going to get in there, and he's going to help your other guys get in there, and yeah, he's going to finish the game for you.
Yeah, they're going to want to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
Another Sir Conrad the Grim is a black one, 3 and 2 black. Another one that has 2 black pips in it, but whenever another creature dies or a creature card is put into your graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent, and then you can pay 2 to have each player put the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. Now, the stuff that's on this card, not really that important, not really that relevant. Milling, putting stuff into the graveyard, sure, those are great. It has some upside here for sure. A little bit of extra damage, but it's a 5/4. And that's a big, beefy creature. You're going to be able to swing in with him. 5 is not unreasonable for that.
Nope.
And I wouldn't typically put this in the bomb category, but because it has those extra things and it's a 5/4, it very well could win you the game.
Definitely. And then we have Reaper of the Night, which is a adventure. So in case you haven't seen our previous videos about what the heck is an adventure card. So adventures are 2 cards in one kind of thing. So you can play them a couple different ways. So if you play it with the sorcery or instant first, you then send the creature part of the card off on an adventure in exile until you want to play that creature. So you can do them both in the same turn or later on, it doesn't matter. If you do play the creature part first, you don't get to play the sorcery. So keep that in mind. So this one, Reaper of the Night, he is a specter, and the sorcery on it is Harvest Fear for 3 and a black, and it is target opponent discards 2 cards. So you may not think much of that, but for me, making people discard cards is awesome because it totally throws them off their game, and then they get behind you and you're ahead of the game, especially when you then play this as a creature, a 4/5 creature for 5 and 2 black, and whenever it attacks, if defending player has 2 or fewer cards in their hand, hopefully they will, it gains flying until end of turn. So you've got rid of some of their cards and you've now got a flyer. So it's pretty awesome. 4/5 flying is really hard to get rid of.
Burning Yard Trainer is another little high mana cost for what you get. It's a 4 and a red for a 3/3, but it has trample and haste. And when it enters the battlefield, another target knight you control gets +2/+2, engage trample and haste until the end of turn. Now, typically in a Prerelease, you're not going to be able to go tribal, but there are a lot of knights, there are a lot of fairies in this set. There have been sets that you have been able to definitely go tribal with your colors, and I would say you could, even if you only have 1 or 2 other knights in your deck, this will trigger and go off. And because it has trample, it's just...
And it's +2/+2, so
yeah,
it's quite a bit on another, even if, right? It's just a lot.
Yeah. If nothing else, this is, I think, in our aggressive section as well.
Yeah.
It would fit. It would fit there.
Definitely.
I'll have to remember to take it out when we get there, just in case we don't double
All
up.
right. So Beanstalk Giant. This for sure is a bomb. It's another adventure card, And we got to play with him a little bit in the Brawl decks on Arena, and he is a lot of fun and comes out a lot. So he is an adventurer, and like I said, and his sorcery side is search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, doesn't say tapped, and then shuffle your library. And then you get to play him for 6 and a green whenever you're ready, and his power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control.
7.
7. So you have 7 for sure. So he is a 7/7 when he comes in. So he is crazy awesome and does a lot of damage for you, for sure.
Yeah,
he's a game finisher.
He's a bomb, and for an uncommon, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
We have a nice little common here that's actually pretty decent. 4 and a green for a 4/4. It has adamant, so those that haven't been familiarized with adamant yet, you have to use 3 of a specific color to cast the spell, and then you get this special little ability that it talks about. So in this case, if at least 3 green mana were spent to cast the spell, then this creature enters the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it. So a 5 mana cost 4/4 isn't so good, but a 5 mana cost 5/5 is, and the fact that it can't be blocked by creatures of power 2 or less makes it really evasive, really easy to kind of get in there and smash those. No chump block. You're either killing their big thing, which is super helpful, or you're going to get in there for a lot of damage. So.
Even my little 3/2 wolf that was unblockable by power 2 or less. It was amazing how much work they did.
I just think of Steel Leaf Champion, and I use that all the time.
Yeah, definitely.
In my green zombies, and it's great. I'm gonna have to put that in my green zombies.
On a side note. All right, Keeper of Fables for 3 and 2 green, 4/5. So he's nothing to laugh at as far as the body goes. And whenever 1 or more non-human creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. Card drawing green.
Yeah.
It's just...
And it's a 4/5.
And you are going to be doing damage because you're green, and you're going to be with trample, and you're going to have all sorts of good stuff out there. So, and lots of weird things like tree folks and other cats and stuff like that.
Speaking of tree folk, to unveil tree folk. I love these adventure cards. For the reason we're kind of putting them in the bomb category ultimately is because they have that first ability that you can play to kind of get there, and then when you play it, you've done something else ahead of time. So this one has a sorcery that you can play and put 2 1/1 counters on a target creature, and then a couple turns later you're going to get out a 6/5 creature, and he's just going to like trample over. Well, he doesn't have trample, but he's going to stomp on people.
Very much so. All right, so then we get into removal.
Probably would you say this is the most, I mean, your bomb is important, but you're only going to have a couple.
Yeah.
Removal is probably the most important.
Removal. And definitely, if you don't have it all in your main board, because again, it depends what that other person is playing, definitely have some ideas for how you're going to sideboard in some removal. So you might have some specific removal, and we'll talk about those as we come up, that's for flyers or for those kinds of things that are very specific, and so those might be in your sideboard.
Save up those cards, get them ready.
Make sure you have them ready. So the first one we want to talk about is Outflank for 1.
Love it.
It is such cool art. And Outflank is an instant, and it deals damage to target attacking or blocking creature equal to the number of creatures you control. This is just so fun for us tribal people.
Especially if you decided to go wide. Like for 1, you could potentially do an unlimited amount of damage. It's ridiculous. That is a good card.
And at instant, you don't have to plan for it. You can just, I'm going to use that.
To play with that in standard. Righteousness is an instant. Target blocking creature gets +7/+7 until the end of turn. For 1, +7/+7. It's meant to remove. You're going to be blocking something, and that's why you can use it. So yeah, you're going to remove.
You're going to have it. You're going to be using that card.
That their 6/6 giant that they're swinging in. Now it doesn't matter that it's a 6/6.
So next we have a little colored artifact. So in this set there are quite a few colored artifacts. We talked about that a little bit in our previous videos, but it's a little bit special, and this is maybe where I want to bring up this whole color thing, and maybe possibly being able to play just one color, because there are so many cards in those colors. So with 6 packs, you're gonna be able to maybe work something out and have monocolor maybe, or just even splashing 2. It's a lot different than some of our other sets where we've had to go into 3 colors, which I hate.
Well,
so that's when you worry about having
the hybrid mana helps with that too.
Yes.
We'll get to some of those cards.
Yeah, and that's why in previous videos and previous pre-releases we worried about having cards that cost 2 blue or 2 red or 2 black or whatever, because it's a little harder to get that if you're in a 3-color deck. But if you're only in a 1 or even 2 color, you can possibly do those.
Or 3/4 of your deck is blue. Then you can play Charmed Sleep, which is for 1 and 2 blue. You can enchant a creature, and that enchanted creature, basically when it enters the battlefield, you tap it, and it doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. So
Ever.
It just goes to sleep.
Goes to sleep. You put their big giant to sleep.
They have to get rid of the enchantment. They're probably not going to be playing enchantment removal. Not in their first game.
Nope. 5 boards are for.
Yeah.
Okay, Queen of Ice. I get to do Queen of Ice. 2 in a blue. I love her so much. So she is.
It's Elsa.
She is awesome. It is Elsa. She's a human noble wizard adventure card. So she has sorcery Rage of Winter for 1 in a blue, and you get to tap a target creature. It doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. So you just tap that down, and then you have ways to get in there. And then you can play her for 2 in a blue, and whenever she deals combat damage to a creature, tap that creature. It doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. She's a 2/3, so she could get in there and do some damage to some things.
So Runaway Together is the next one, and the reason it's in there, not because it's a super awesome card for this. You will have to put something that you own back. So basically choose target creature controlled by a different player, or by different players. In a pre-release, you're going to be playing 1v1, so it's one of yours and one of theirs. You return those creatures to their own owner's hands. If you have them enter the battlefield, that's great. Ultimately, the reason this is in there is it is a removal, because you are going to be putting something back in their hand, and that 1 extra turn is going to help. If this is your only removal, I'm sorry. So please don't make this the card you rely on, but we mentioned it because it is removal, and if you need something, then, or you're low on removal, this is something that can help you. Yeah.
All right, turn into a pumpkin. Yeah, same thing. It's for 3 in a blue. It's an instant as well. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, and you get to draw a card, so that's why it's a little bit more. And if you have Adamant. Oh my. Adamant.
That's fine.
If at least 3 blue mana was spent to cast the spell, create a food token. So food tokens may not be relevant. It depends on your deck.
And it's interesting because, I mean, worrying about things like food tokens that gain you life or do other things, you're probably not going to be able to set up a deck like that in a pre-release. But there will be food tokens. There are enough cards out there that create food tokens that you'll be able to use it. So. Baked into a pie. We all like pie. And this one is 2 and 2 black. So it costs 4 for an instant. Destroy target creature. Create a food token. Speaking of creating a food token, but it's a little expensive for removal.
It
at
is
4,
it's
but
the same price as Ravenous Chupacabra.
In this,
which has done a lot of work for me.
Yeah, in this set, that's one of the that's a good removal.
Get rid of stuff. It helps. All right, Memory Theft for 2 in a black. It is a sorcery, and target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. You may put a card that has an adventure that player owns from exile into that player's graveyard. So you really mess them up. So even if you're just getting them to discard a card, it's amazing how that's important and limited. I was quite surprised at how well that has worked. What is that card? I forgot now. Where you got to look in War of the Spark, where you got to look at...
Thought Erasure?
No. Thought Erasure is another example, though. But anyway, it's being able to look at their hand and get that information is really awesome. plus you're getting rid of one of their cards, plus you're potentially getting rid of one of their adventure creatures that they're going to bring back on you. So get rid of their giant.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Which is vengeance.
It's rare.
Oh.
Epic Downfall is 1 and a black to exile target creature with converted mana cost of 3 or greater. So all of those bombs that people are going to be playing with, save that. Save this card for that. If you get this, I would say that's a great removal, and that might push you into using black because you have that little bit of removal.
And the next one is similar, except Reeve Soul for 1 and a black. It's destroy target creature with power 3 or less. So that's going to get rid of those little pesky death touchers or something like that that's really driving you crazy.
If you get both of those, you're probably going to...
You're going to go black.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
And I love this one. Lash of Thorns. Target creature gets +2/+1 and gains Death Touch until the end of a turn. It's an instant, so it's a combat trick. It only costs 1, so you don't have to leave that much up in your mana pool. And it's just a great little removal card.
They're going to forget about this card.
They're going to forget about this card. And it's a common. Nice little common.
It's going to be neat. Festive Funeral for 4 and a black. It's an instant, and target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard. So this could potentially be pretty big, and it gets rid of indestructible that way with -X's.
Yep. Spectre Shriek is a sorcery for 1, and target opponent, again, this is another, get that information. You reveal their hand, you choose a non-land card from it. If you do, that player exiles that card. If it's a non-black card, it is exiled this way. Exile a card from your hand. So there is a little bit of a downfall there because it only costs 1, but that information.
But yeah, and so that might be one that you want to put in your sideboard, depending on what you've got going on there. So have that one sleeved up for sure. Searing Barrage for 4 and a red. It's an instant, and it deals 5 damage to target creature. Leslie really likes to do that to people. And
well, it's creature, not any target. So I couldn't do final kill with that, but
Adamant, if at least 3 red mana was spent to cast this spell, it deals 3 damage to that creature's controller.
That would be the finishing kill.
As well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So Adamant is in addition to.
In addition to. Okay.
It's just like addendum.
Nice.
Was plus if you cast this during your own
do this.
So Scorching Dragonfire.
Yep.
3 damage. Costs 1 and a red. Target creature or planeswalker. If a creature or planeswalker would die this turn, exile instead. Great card. If you have, it's basically Lightning Strike, except it's not any target.
Creature or planeswalker. What other target would there be? Oh, the person. Forgot the player. Dang.
Yeah.
So close.
So close.
It's nice that it exiles
so
the
new kind of like errata with that, or what is that? The Oracle. If it says anything that used to say creature or planeswalker went and got changed to any target. But this one specifically says creature or planeswalker. So wizards, stop being so confusing. Just pick something.
Public service announcement there. Slaying Fire for 2 and a red. It's an instant, and it just deals 3 damage to any target. Hooray!
Yep.
So a little more, but if you do Adamant, if at least 3 red mana was spent to cast this spell, it deals 4 damage instead. So that's even better.
You keep getting those ones. It's like proliferate.
Adamant. Okay, I'm adamant that I get it right. There we go.
Adamant. So, Embereth Shieldbreaker for 1. Well, first of all, we have a sorcery for 1, which is just destroy target artifact. There are some decent artifacts in this set. Most people will probably be playing with at least 1, maybe 2 artifacts in their pre-release deck. We didn't recommend that many of them, but there's artifacts that can remove. Remember the casket. Destroy target artifact is a great thing to have. But I love this card because you don't have to use that. If you don't need that particular thing, it's still a 2/1 creature. So
Yeah, that adds to that
put
whole
it in there
thing.
for removal because you might need that removal. But regardless, it's a 2/1 aggressive dude that can be put on the battlefield. So even though, like, if it was just the sorcery, I would probably sideboard it. But because of this, I would probably put it in the deck just because.
Yeah. Especially if you're trying to get that night tribal thing going on.
Yeah.
Red Cap Melee for 1 red. It's an instant, and it deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker.
Mm-hmm.
If a non-red permanent is dealt damage this way, you sacrifice a land.
A little bit of another one mana cost instant that has a little bit of a downfall for you, but
if you have extra land, oh my!
Well, red green if you're gonna do green and searching for
Yeah.
lands.
Crazy.
Okay, speaking of green,
like
out
this one.
muscle. I really like this one too. It's 3 and a green. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control, then it fights target creature you don't control. And if you really want to be adamant, you can make sure that you pay 3 green when you cast this. And basically the spell, read the card and then you don't have to like just figure out what it says. The creature you control gains indestructible until the end of turn. So there's no downfall to attacking or fighting when you are adamant about what you're doing. So
None at all. Oh my. Return to Nature. So this is a really fun looking card. It's got the pumpkin that has turned, the coach has turned back into the pumpkin now. So it's a little late for Cinderella. For 1 and a green, this is one I probably would for sure sideboard. It's an instant and you destroy target artifact. You choose one of these. Destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, or exile a card from a graveyard. So
see, and I would absolutely not sideboard that. I would put that in my main board because everyone is going to have at least 1 artifact or enchantment in their thing. And you get to return a target creature. So that there's like so many things you can do with that.
But that could be a creature on your side doing lots of damage.
It could also be your bomb returned back to your hand.
Could be. I don't know. This is where, yeah.
That's okay. That's why there's
Depends
2
what
of
you
us.
got going on,
because
right?
we have awesome different opinions
We do.
from time to time. She wins more. Fell the Pheasant
Oh, brother.
for 1 and a green. Although I won our tournament that we played
did.
tonight. I was on top, first
Yes.
place. Anyway, Fell the Pheasant deals 5 damage to target creature with flying. Create a food token. Food token, who cares? No one cares. But 5 damage to target creature with flying. It is very situational. So again, that was one that you hum and you haw. Whether, I don't think I would sideboard. There are so many flyers. There are like, I would say half of the creatures in this set are flyers because of the fairies and the dragons and all that kind of stuff. They will have a flyer. You might not need to do 5 damage to it, but that's a removal spell for 3, for 2. 5 damage for 2. So no, I wouldn't sideboard it. I put it in my main board.
I would sideboard.
She would sideboard it.
We're agreeing to disagree. All right. Canderous Transformation for 1 and a green. It's an enchantment. And when it enters the battlefield, draw a card. An enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a green elk creature with base power and toughness of 3/3.
Mm-hmm.
So, would you use this on your creature or theirs?
Well, it depends. If it's a
Depends.
fairy, then I might not. If it's like, it depends. If it's a 1/1, maybe they put a Frogify on mine and I like put that on that and now we have to
No longer a frog, it's an elk now.
Now we have to use layers to figure out what the stupid power and toughness is.
Oh my
and
God.
Layers is another video.
Don't
worry
Don't
about
ask
layers.
us about layers.
Well, ask us, but maybe later. Anyways, this I think we would probably both agree is maybe a sideboard card because you never know what you want to play it on. Yeah. But they're probably going to have something that is bigger than a 3/3. Mm-hmm. Again, this is kind of like their bomb removal, and it doesn't just destroy it so they can bring it back. It turns it into a 3/3.
Yeah, they have to find a way to get rid of it.
Yeah,
to bring it back.
Yeah. See, they'll have to be playing Return to Nature to destroy that enchantment.
True. So maybe they should. I don't know. I don't know. All right. Speaking of artifacts, here's one. It's Scalding Cauldron. This is fun. For 1, it is a cute little artifact that you can pay 3 and sacrifice it and deal 3 damage to a target creature. So it's a great little card to have out there that's going to make them a little uneasy, because at any moment when you have 3 mana available, you can be doing that final 3 damage to something, and they're really not going to like that very much.
No.
So it's going to keep them being a little more cautious and to back the hell off.
Mm-hmm. So the E in bread, BRE, is all about evasion. Now, evasion, I think, is removal is the most important, but evasion is obviously the second most important. So important that your creatures have evasion. If you had all of your creatures in your deck with evasion and then had some good removal,
so good,
you would probably win most of your games. So if you can find all of the creatures, so what is evasion? Evasion is creatures with flying, creatures with menace, creatures with death touch in some cases, anything that they might not be able to block, anything they don't want to block. Trample is considered evasion because the damage tramples through. So any of those things. So we've pulled out everything that we can find that has flying and menace that we felt wasn't too expensive necessarily, or that maybe had some upsides to it. These are ones that you can watch for. There is definitely ones that we didn't put in here that have evasion in them. There's so many fairies in this set. We're not going to talk about all the fairies, but if you just did like all fairies flying, when I first started doing pre-releases, all I did was flyers, and I won so many times.
Yeah. She did.
Yeah. She did. But they're on to me.
That's what my sideboard is for. Her.
You have to put that destroy target creature with flying. So the first one is Ardenvale Tactician for 1 and 2 white. It's another adventure card. When you cast the instant, you're going to tap up to 2 target creatures, which is great for just a little bit of removal, being aggressive and flying and going in. It also helps with the whole evasion because they're not going to be able to block. When you get a creature, or when you cast it as a creature, it's going to be 1 and 2 white, and it's a flying 2/3. So just being able to 2 in the air with a 3 butt is actually pretty decent. So
we like big butts.
I cannot.
I couldn't resist. I'm sorry. Anyway, I had to do that. So, Archon of Absolution for 3 and a white. This is an Archon creature, which is some sort of flying elk of some sort. Trying to describe for our podcast listeners, it has protection from white. It is white itself. And creatures can attack you or planeswalker you control unless their controller pays 1 for each of those creatures. Again, I didn't think that little soldier guy that made them pay would be a great card to have, but in a limited, he was awesome because they don't plan to have extra mana that they have to use in order to swing at you. So this guy, he is good on the defensive side and good on the aggressive side.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I agree.
A lot more.
Another white one we have is Garrison Griffin for 2 and white. It's just a flying 2/2. So it's a little bit above curve, 2/2 for 3. But when it attacks, target knight you control gains flying until the end of turn. Again, we talked about this. You're probably going to have some knights because there's lots of knights out there. So, great card.
Yeah.
Evasion twice.
Yeah, basically. Prize Griffin. This is an awesome looking card for 4 and a white. It's a 3/4 flyer. It's vanilla, but if you can get that out there, it's a flyer that they are really going to have a hard time getting rid of. For sure.
And our last white one is Beloved Princess. For 1, she's a 1/1 with lifelink. And, you'd think a 1/1 for 1, why put her in? Well, because she can't be blocked by creatures of power 3 or greater. So those big beefy guys can't block her. Hopefully they have a bunch of big beefy guys. She's not amazing. She's not going to win you the game. She's not your bomb. But she is a nice little evasive princess.
Yep. And helps you with that human tribal. There
Yeah.
is going to be some human tribal happening here too.
Mhm.
So one black card that we've mentioned in our previous videos that I absolutely love, Belle of the Brawl. She is for 2 and a black. She's a 3/2, very aggressive menace human knight that whenever she attacks, other knights you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. She's just charging in there and doing a lot of damage.
Menace.
Menace.
So Bog Naughty, this one
Leslie picked.
I picked because she's a flyer, 3/3 flyer. She does cost 5, so she is a little bit expensive. She does have 2 black pips, so she's a little bit expensive. But she has this whole sacrifice of food. Target creature gets -3/-3 until the end of the turn. So because of that, again, you're like, well, you might not have food tokens. It's kind of situational. And so should you put this in your deck? You definitely want to consider all of those things. Do you have food token generators and all that kind of stuff before you put her in? But she is a flyer. She is a 3/3 flyer.
Yep.
And even if you have to pay 5 for a 3/3 flyer, that is decent to have on the battlefield if they don't have anything to deal with it. You have a bunch of flyers that are flying in. If you have the benefit of food tokens, then you get to remove some of their stuff at the same time. So
Get rid of their bigger flyer, for
I mean,
sure.
she's like amazing looking. She's so cool.
Very. And let's face it, by that point in the game, all of a sudden you have a 3/3 flyer on the board that you've got rid of all their stuff.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully. By that point in the game, you should have. You're
Removal.
not get more removal in there. All right, so Lochswain Paladin
Okay, Grandma.
for 3 and a black is a 3/2 human knight with menace. And if you're adamant about having knights, like I'm going to be, if at least 3 black mana was spent to cast this spell, it enters the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it. So it's a 4/3 for 4. He's good.
Really good. Now we enter our red section. Ogre Errant. Did I say that right? Maybe. 3 in a red for a Ogre Knight, which is kind of cool. Again, knights. 3/4. Whenever it attacks another target, attacking knight gains menace until the end of turn. So again, it's in there. It gives another knight menace and anything that you can do to evade.
So the 3 little piggies are in this set.
Well, the wolf, the big bad
The
wolf.
piggies are too. Did you see the tokens? Anyway, blow your house down for 200 red. They are so cute. And you
I didn't see them.
sacrifice them in tournament. Anyway.
Food tokens?
Food tokens, yes. Blow your house down. The big bad wolf is here for 2 and a red. And up to 3 target creatures can't block this turn. Destroy any of them that are walls. So yeah, this is going to be fun.
The walls is going to be kind of irrelevant. Most people don't play with walls.
But
You
tapping
shouldn't
3?
really play with walls, but tapping 3. Awesome.
Man.
Burning Yard Trainer. Trample, haste. Oh, we talked
already
about
talked
him
about this
already.
guy.
We're going to skip him.
He's good in removal too.
Yeah, good in removal too, but claim the firstborn. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Gain control of target creature with converted mana cost of 3 or less until the end of turn. Untap that creature. It gains haste until the end of turn. So basically, we're active treasoning them for 1.
And have you seen that Thud is back?
Yeah, I did see that. I put it
So-
in here. It's in here.
Did you? Okay.
It's
I'll
in
shut up
other
then.
cards. Yeah.
Okay. I'll shut up.
Don't shut up.
We're going to talk about that. Okay. Merchant of the Veil for 2 and a red. It's a 2/3 adventure creature. His instant is you may discard a card. Classes. If you do, draw a card. That's always handy. And as his creature is out there for 2 and a red, you can discard a card and draw a card. So it's a great little card draw. What is that called when you're exchanging your cards for a new card? You don't want that land, anyway.
I don't know. You always try to
I
come
don't
up
know.
with the
I always try to come up
magic
with the official
person term.
term.
I don't. It's like, I'm going to call it discarding a card and drawing a card.
Okay.
Rowan's Battle Guard.
Trying to be cool.
3 and a... We are cool.
Okay.
We don't need to try.
We don't need to
3 and a red for a human knight. First strike, as long as you control a Rowan Planeswalker, Rowan Battle Guard gets +3/+0. You're not probably going to have the Planeswalker, so don't put this in there because you think that. But it is a 3/3 with first strike. They're not going to necessarily want to block it, so They might let it through at least a couple times, get that 6 damage in.
Mm-hmm. Oko's Accomplices for 2 and a blue. It's little fairies for it's a 2/3 flying. Just little fairies gonna do a lot of work for you. It's hard to get rid of.
Yeah, another aggressive fairy. 2 blue for a hypnotic sprite. But first, you're going to cast the instant for 2 and a blue. Counter target spell with a converted mana cost of 3 or less. You may or may not use that. Not a lot of people play control in pre-release. It's hard to set up your deck that way, but a 2/1 flyer is nothing too bad.
Nope. Mistford River Turtle for 3 and a blue. It's a 1/5 turtle, so he's good just to have sitting there. And whenever it attacks, another target attacking non-human creature can't be blocked this turn. So that's going to be really handy, especially if you have it in combination with that cat. That you want creatures to get in there, and
There's so many big beasts.
Yeah.
And you get to choose.
Yeah.
Sorry, you can't block my giant this turn. That's a 7/7.
Sorry.
That's awesome. Oakham Adversary for 3 and a green is another great one. It's cost 2 less to cast if your opponent controls a green permanent. May or may not be relevant. The reason it's in the evasion is because it has Death Touch. It's a 2/3 with Death Touch. And when it deals combat damage to a player, you get to draw a card, a little bit of upside. But they're not going to want to block a 2/3 Death Touch. Number 1, it's Death Touch. Number 2, it actually has a pretty big butt. So it's probably going to survive whatever they're blocking with. Because they don't want to use their big beefy thing. And their little thing is just going to die as it blocks.
Yep.
So.
Wintermoor Commander for white and a black. This is a human knight with Death Touch that you're going to want to use. It's an uncommon, so hopefully you get some. I probably won't.
You will.
I want some.
You will.
I want
you will.
some. Yes. Its toughness.
Manifest.
It's a 2, and then its toughness is equal to the number of knights that I control. Whenever it attacks another target knight I control, gains indestructible until end of turn. So yes, I really want this guy.
I mean, honestly, think about how many knights we've suggested so far. That's not even all of them. Like, there are so many knights in this. You will have lots of knights. Fireborn Knight, another knight. This is our first hybrid mana. Again, we waffled. Should we suggest that you put the hybrid mana in there? They cost 4. But ultimately, because it's hybrid mana, there's so many combinations in which you can play this. You're going to be playing probably a 2-color deck. So this is in essence colorless because you're going to have the mana to play it as long as you have 4.
Yeah.
So it has double strike, so they're not going to want to block it. Again, 2/3, and you can pay 4 to give it +1/+1 until the end of turn. So as this stays on the battlefield, it's just going to keep being able to get bigger and bigger because you can pay that as many times as you want as you get more mana. You're probably not going to pay it more than twice, but
Double strike. You don't
a
need
4/5 double strike is lots. Well, it's 8, but I can do math.
Elite Headhunter. This is another knight. This one has black and red for 4 black and red hybrid mana, and it has menace. And you can pay 3 of that hybrid. Oh my!
Well, maybe hybrid. He's a knight.
Sacrifice another creature or an artifact. Elite Headhunter deals 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker. So yeah, sacrifice an artifact. There's a reason to have artifacts in there.
Yep. It's menace. 2/3 menace. Yep. That's great.
Hard to get rid of.
And now on to the A section of our bread. I like bread. I wish bread didn't make you so fat. Anyway, A is for aggressive things. So once you've got your removal, you have your evasion in there. Now you just want some creatures that are going to be able to attack really fast. These are your 4/2s, your 3/1s, things that buff your creatures up and make them indestructible so you don't have to worry about attacking. Anything like that. I think we talked about him.
Yeah, I think we did at the beginning.
Yeah. So we'll move on to Shepherd of the Flock, which is a 1 and a, sorry, I always forget to do the adventure ones first, but
I do too.
It's an adventure, so you're going to cast the instant first, which is return target permanent you control to your owner's hand. You may not want that. You may not need that. You may need your aggressive creature out first, and that is totally fine. Once you cast your creature, you can't cast your instant or sorcery, though. So just think about that. And it's a 3/1 for 2. So we love our 3/1s. The guys over at Budget MTG, they like their 3/1s. You just swing fast.
Mm-hmm. And if he dies, that's well.
He dies, he dies. It's fine.
Usually take something out with him.
Taking something out with him.
Yeah. Silver Flame Squire for 1 and a white. It's a 2/1 human soldier. Again, it's an adventure card. Its instant is target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Untap it. So you are turning your you're turning your aggressive guy to removal.
Or it's exactly you're swinging in and then basically giving it vigilance and more stuff.
Yeah.
And if they have block, then it's removal. If they haven't, it's aggressive.
And lots of damage.
A lot of adventures in this that are aggressive. Next one is Order of Midnight. Its sorcery is return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, so it doesn't matter if they died because you're going to be able to put them back in your hand, and then you get a 2/2 for 2. It's a flying, and it can't block, so you're going to attack. It's the definition of aggression.
The Foulmire Knight for a black. It's a zombie knight, and its Profane Insight instant on the adventure is a 2 and a black. You draw a card and you lose a life. Black means card draw. And then it comes in as a Death Touch, 1/1 Death Touch creature.
Probably could have gone in the evasion section as well. Or removal. Another adventure.
Yeah.
Smitten Swordmaster. Its sorcery is you gain X life, and each opponent loses X life, where X is the number of knights you control. You might not have Knight Tribal, but as we've talked about, you're probably going to have 2 or 3. You may use that, you may not, but if you don't, you get a 2/1 for 2 with lifelink. So.
And so we've got a nice little barge in red instant for 1 red mana. Target attacking creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Each attacking non-human creature gains trample until end of turn. All of a sudden, you've got trample out of nowhere.
Yeah, and typically red aggressive stuff is all about buffing up your creatures and giving them trample at the last minute. So.
Works
so
really
that's
well
why if you're in red and you're looking for the aggressive stuff, this is the stuff you're going to look for. We have a Wolverine for 1 in a red, and it's a 2/1, and whenever you draw your second card each turn, it gets +1/+1 and first strike until the end of turn. If you're in red, you're likely not going to be pulling a lot of extra cards unless you have blue or green as your second color. But it is a 2/1, so it doesn't matter. You just swing.
Mean.
Yeah.
Mean little guy. Embereth Paladin. We already talked about this one? Maybe not.
No.
Losing my mind. Okay. He's for 3 and a red. A 4/1. I like 4/1s. And it has haste. So you're going to get in there, swing with him, and just bulldoze over. He has a damage as well. If at least 3 red mana was spent to cast him, he enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. So that's certainly nothing bad. Becomes a 5/2.
Yeah.
For 4 with haste. Suddenly they're in big trouble.
Someone's aggressive.
Yeah.
Rimrock Knight. See, another knight. Jeepers creepers. It's instant. It's another adventure card. Target creature gets +2/+0 until the end of turn. So you're making one of your other creatures more aggressive. It's an instant. It's a combat trick. But then when you decide to cast it for its creature, it can't block. It's just meant to attack. It's a 3/1 for 2. So charge.
Yes. And you can use Ferocity of the Wilds on it for 2 and a red. It's an enchantment, and attacking non-human creatures you control get +1/+0 and have trample. So it's a 4/1 trample. He's going to be mean.
Yep.
He's a non-human.
Goblin Redcap Raiders.
More non-humans.
More non-humans. For 2 and a red, it's a 3/2. When it attacks, you may tap and untap non-human creature you control. If you do, red Cap Raider gets +1/+1 and gains trample until the end of turn. Yay! Be aggressive. I like that card.
Here's another knight, a goblin knight for 1, a weaselback red cap. It's a 1/1, and you can pay 1 in a red to give it +2/+0 until end of turn. So yeah, that little goblin that's out right now that you can pay 1 in a red to give him +2 does a lot of damage.
So into our green, we have Prerelease Rider for 1 in a green. Another knight, elf knight, 3/1. Sacrifice a food token. Target creature blocks Prerelease Rider this turn if able. If you are using food tokens, it might be a little bit of removal, but definitely an aggressive rider. And they're going to, if they let it through, you get 3. If they don't, you're still going to take something out. So.
Yep. Rosethorn Halberd? Okay. For 1 green, it's an artifact, a green artifact. And when it enters the battlefield, attach it to a target non-human creature you control. And that creature gets +2/+1 until end of turn, so you get to attach it right away. And if you have to equip later on, you equip it for 5.
Yeah, not until the end of turn. It just gets +2/+1.
Oh, yes, sorry.
equipment.
Not until the end of turn.
Yeah.
Sorry, whoopsie.
Sir Farron the Hedgehammer. Look at that beast. She's riding a bear. So for 2 green, you get a 2/2. It's a bear.
It's a bear. Human knight on
Except
a bear.
it's a human knight on a bear. When she attacks another target, attacking creature gets +X/+X until the end of turn, where X is its power. So if you have some way to buff it up, you can buff it up and just really make this shenanigans happen. If nothing else, it's a +2/+2. So
Deathless Knight. So this one is a 4/2 for 4 black and green hybrid mana. It has haste. So again, with the 4/2 with haste. And when you gain life for the first time each turn, return it from the graveyard to your hand. So he keeps coming back. So plan for that a little bit if you can.
Yep.
Gaining life.
Lock Dragon, flying. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, you can discard a card. If you do, you get to draw a card. So a little bit of card draw in there if you're in red. Easy to play. It's a 3/2 flyer. If you get this card,
How much does it cost?
it costs 4 hybrid blue-red. So if you get this card, you're probably going to play it.
Probably.
Yeah.
Resolute Rider. I'm probably going to play this card.
Yeah, oh, for sure, if
For
you get this.
4 and a black
See,
and
what if you get
white.
both of those?
I know,
I'm going to get
I
both of them, and then you
know.
got to decide. What would you play for both? Let's finish what it is first. What is it?
It is a human knight, and you can pay 2 hybrid black and white mana and give it lifelink until end of turn. Or you can play 3 and it gets indestructible until end of turn. So the chances are you can maybe even do both of those things, which is really awesome. At 4/2, very aggressive. Man, I don't know. If I had lots of ways to support the flyer, I would do that. But I think the black and the white one would be more staying in the game, maybe. Don't like discarding a card.
Well, the other thing, too, is that costs a lot of mana to buff up.
Yeah. True.
So then you're putting all your eggs in one basket.
True.
So they both have their pros and cons.
Yeah.
What's our next one? It's another hybrid one for green and white, 4 green and white hybrid mana. This one's an adventure card. So you pay your 4 green and white hybrid mana and you can create 2 1/1 white human creature tokens. Then when you decide to play your creature, you can play your 4 hybrid for a 2/2. But this has tap it and creatures you control get +1/+1 until the end of turn. So again, not an awesome card, but it is an aggressive card that is going to make them, you're just going to create some creatures and keep swinging in with them and give them, buffing them up, and they're going to be like, I gotta block or deal with this, or she's just going to run me over. So
The next card is a card I would almost build around because Grumgully the Generous for 1 and a red and a green, a 3/3 creature by itself is good.
Yeah.
It's a legendary goblin shaman, and each other non-human creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. It does not say non-token. It's any creature that comes in. That is going to be incredible. If they don't get rid of this, this is going to really run them over.
That could actually go into the bomb category.
Yeah. It's such a good card.
By himself, he's not a bomb, but because of everything he does to all the rest of your creatures, if you get this card, I would highly recommend that you try to figure out what else you have in green and red, and I apologize if you don't get any other good green and red cards, because that does happen sometimes, so don't feel bad about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And then Crashing Drawbridge I put in here. It's a 0/4 defender, so you're like, what do you mean? Why is this a aggressive creature? Well, because you can tap it to give creatures you control haste until the end of turn. And haste is aggressive. And if you can tap it and give anything haste, that's awesome. And it's creatures you control, not one creature you control. Play 10 creatures in one turn, make a bunch of tokens, or even just playing 2 or 3 creatures, you tap it and they all get haste. That's just, don't be so aggressive, man.
All right, so some filler cards. We're on to D for dudes. And the first one we have is Trapped in the Tower for 1 and a white. It's a really fun enchantment. It's the girl in the tower waiting for someone to come and rescue her. Enchant creature without flying. An enchanted creature can't attack or block, and his activated abilities can't be activated. So she's just waiting there for someone to save her. So you're going to do that to their creatures and make them be this helpless girl in the tower.
Yeah. And you're going, what? That's not a dude. It's an enchantment. Yes, we know. Dudes are technically just filler cards. This is a filler card. So once you've filled out all your stuff, if you have room left over, these are cards that you might want to put in because they're filler. They're your bears. They're your other good cards. So Flutterfox is another one there. It's a 2/2 for 2, 1 and a white. As long as you control an artifact or enchantment, Flutterfox has flying. You might or might not have that, but it's a 2/2 for 2, so it's a decent card as it is. It's a good filler.
The Mysterious Pathlighter for 2 and a white. It's a 2/2 flyer, so that's why it's worthwhile for sure. And each creature you control that has an adventure enters the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on it. So that's pretty awesome. You saw how many adventure cards we were talking about.
Yeah.
So, you know.
And again, you might not have adventures, but it's a flyer 2/2 for 3. That's great. Ardenvale Paladin, 3 and a white for a 2/5. If you are adamant that you are going to be white, then you can cast this for 3 white, and it enters the battlefield with 1/1 counter on it. So not awesome, but it's a 2/5, possibly a 3/6. It would be great actually as a 3/6. Nice little blocker, good filler card.
The Animating Fairy Adventure card has a sorcery bring to life for 2 and a blue, and its target non-creature artifact you control becomes a 0/0 artifact creature. Put 4 1/1 counters on it. That's not a bad little creature to have out there.
Yeah.
And then if you don't have that capability happening, you could just play it to be a 2/2 flyer, which is always good.
Yep, 2/2 for 3. A little above curve, but Frogify is an enchantment. It basically just turns, it loses all, whatever you put it on, loses all abilities, and it becomes a frog, a 1/1 frog, power and toughness 1/1. It costs 1 and a blue. Not the best removal, but it's good. Decent removal.
Fairy Vandal for 1 and a blue. This is a little flash guy. He's a 1/2. That actually is going to really be helpful for you because all of a sudden you've got a creature out there, and whenever you draw your second card each turn, put a 1/1 counter on Fairy Vandal. So he's out there, he's done a job for you, he's going to keep growing, he's good.
Yeah. And a 3 and a blue, you could have Vantress Paladin. It's a 2/2, which you're like, what? 4 for a 2/2 with flying. However, if you use all blue mana, then it comes in with a 1/1 counter on it. So it's technically a 3/3 for 4, and it's flying, so it's worth the extra.
Yep. Lost Legion for 1 and 2 black. It's a 2/3 Spirit Knight. When it enters the battlefield, scry 2. That's awesome.
Yeah.
He does a lot of extra for you there.
And we didn't talk about a lot of the fairies that are in this, but there's a lot of fairies too. We put a lot of knights in for some reason. Weaselback Redcap for 1. Oh, we already talked about him, so let's just like skip past him and go on to the next one. 7 dwarves. He's a dwarf.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise! He's a 2/2 for 2. Nice little bear, 1 in a red, and 7 dwarfs gets +1/+1 for each other creature named 7 dwarfs that you control. A deck can have up to 7 cards named 7 dwarfs. This is cool. So that's actually a good thing to talk about right now. In pre-release, there is no limit to the number of cards you can have of a certain type. Anyway, you can have, if you open up 6 Lost Legions, you can put all 6 Lost Legions in your deck. There's no rules around only having 4 in pre-release. However, when you're playing in standard or any of the other formats, the most you can have of one card is 4, unless it says otherwise. This is an example of one that says otherwise. So you can have 7, and potentially it gets +7/+7.
Have some crazy stuff happening.
Oh my gosh, I hope I get 5 of those.
All right, so we're going to go to the Edgewall Innkeeper for 1 green. It's a 1/1 human peasant. And whenever you cast a creature spell that has an adventure, draw a card.
Nice.
We've talked about lots of adventures. You're going to
Yeah.
get some card draw out of this guy,
Yeah.
and he's just going to be sitting there for you.
And the Fierce Witch Stalker is super ugly. 2 and 2 green for a wolf. 4/4 wolf with trample.
Yep.
Enters the battlefield, created food token. I actually don't think this is filler. I think this is like right up there with an evasion. I would definitely put that in my deck if I was playing green. I wouldn't just use it as
I didn't want
filler.
to be so biased towards wolves, so I didn't put him up there.
Well,
I'm playing this card if I get this card. He's going in my standard wolf deck, too, by the way. Just saying.
she might like only play wolves and vampires.
And knights now.
And werewolves. Because they're wolves. Anyways, Garen Brigg Squire for 1 and a green. It's a 2/2, so again, 2/2 for 2. Whenever you cast a creature spell that has an adventure, then it gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. So it buffs itself up if you get adventures. But regardless, it's a nice little filler.
Bramblebort Fink. Fink? Okay.
Fink, yeah.
It's an oof or something. That's kind of creature he is for, he's a 2/2 for 2, a 1 and a green. And you can pay 8, and he has a base power and toughness 10/10 until end of turn. Activate this ability only if you control an Oko Planeswalker.
Yeah. So that ability is not going to happen.
No, he's just a good little filler, and
Yeah.
it's just going to make you laugh when you play him.
You have to build around that. But Wildwood Tracker, when it attacks or blocks, if you control another non-human creature, it gets +1/+1 until the end of the turn. It's a 1/1 for 1. Typically, you don't put a lot of 1 mana cost cards in your pre-release deck, but there's a few decent 1/1s in here that will, again, if you don't have your deck flushed out, you can put them in there. It buffs itself up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Flaxen Intruder. So this is the little Goldilocks card that I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. It is an adventure. Welcome home for 5 and 2 green. It's a sorcery where you get to create 3 2/2 green bear creature tokens. So the 3 bears, you get to make them. And then she is a 1/2 creature for 1. And whenever she deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice it. When you do, destroy a target artifact or enchantment. So you sacrifice her.
You may.
You may. It's kind of strange.
She's a 1/2 for 1,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
that has some potential benefits of
Making lots
removal,
of bears, I guess.
and she makes bears.
Yeah.
So I put it in there because I thought it would be a decent filler.
I'm just not sure how I feel about the art.
I know.
She's kind of creepy.
A little girl with a
little
sword
scared.
that kills animals. I don't know.
She's got a big bear trap on her
She's
shoulder.
going to be a serial killer when she grows
I'm a little
up.
worried.
That's how it starts, people. That's how it starts.
Oh, gosh.
Wandermare for 1 and a green and a white is a 3/3, and whenever you cast a creature spell that has an adventure, you put a 1/1 counter on Wandermare, so becomes a 4/4 for 3. Yeah, it's on curve. It's a great card.
Mm-hmm. Maryleaf Pixie for a green and a blue, little 2/2 flyer. And you can tap it and add green or blue mana. So it's a little mana fixer and a little aggressive.
And actually, you know, if you think of this card, most of the time when you see a 2/2 flyer, it costs 3.
That's true.
And this one costs 2 and it gives you mana. So that's a pretty good card.
Pretty darn good card.
And she's a fairy. I might be biased. So there was a few cards that I kind of, when we were looking through this, we thought these are ones that don't really fit in any of those categories, but they're worth talking about just in the sense of when you might want to put this in your deck. So Giant Opportunity for the sorcery, and you may sacrifice 2 food tokens. If you do, create a 7/7 green giant creature token. Otherwise, create 3 food tokens. So again, we talked a little bit about food tokens in this set and how there's so many things that create food tokens. This would be one that if you have enough things in your deck that can create food tokens, being able to just sacrifice 2 of them to get a 7/7 is pretty amazing. If you don't have that, this is nothing for your deck. But it's a situational card that has a situation worth talking about, which is why we wanted to mention it.
Once in future for 3 and a green, it's an instant where you can return a target card from your graveyard to your hand and put up to 1 other target card from your graveyard on top of your library, and then you exile once in future. And if you use the adamant clause, if at least 3 green mana was, did I say it wrong again?
It's okay.
Oh my gosh.
Adamant.
Adamant. If at least 3 green mana was spent to cast the spell, instead return those cards to your hand and exile once in future. So yeah, that's being able to get creatures back from your graveyard is so good, especially in limited, because they're not going to have a lot of ways to deal with that.
Yeah. Well, because you're a 40 card deck as well,
Yeah.
you have less possibilities. So if you can bring back those aggressive cards, because we are going to be playing aggressively, it's nice to bring
for
those
4
back.
mana to be able to do that, you're probably, if you're in green, you're going to want some of that big stuff to come back again. So yeah.
Overwhelmed Apprentice. She's worth talking about because she's like got books. But so for 1, she's a 1/2, and when she enters the battlefield, each opponent puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. Then you get to scry 2. So the reason that we put this one in here to talk about was because, again, we just wanted to reinforce information is so important. So anytime you can look at the top cards of your library, look at your opponent's decks, that gives you information that you can then use to go through your library. You don't like those top 2 cards, you put them on the bottom so that you get the stuff in your hand that you want to have in your hand. So this is a nice little filler card as a 1/2. She could sit and block, but she's one that you would maybe have in your sideboard or maybe put in if you had the situations around it that supported that. So.
Yeah. And Opt is a card that's been around for a little while, and for the same reason, it for 1 blue, you can look at the top card of your library and decide whether you want to keep it there, and then you get to draw a card. So it's that card draw that you need. It's pretty handy.
And then Sir Kara the Bold for 3 and 2 red. She's a legendary creature, human knight for 3/3. So basically, whenever she or an instant or sorcery spell you control deals damage to a player, you can exile the top card of your library, and you may play that card this turn. So more cards in hand. This one, again, it's not something that you can necessarily build around in in a pre-release in a limited format, but you may pull a lot of instants and sorceries. And if you have this and a bunch of instants and sorceries, at least if you have her, it's worth counting how many instants and sorceries you have, because you can potentially play more cards and get more stuff out faster. So,
and you can just tap her and deal damage too.
Yeah,
So,
that's
to any
right.
target.
Exactly. So
she can sit there and ping.
Yeah, 3/3 for 5 isn't great, but because of her other stuff, if you find that you have enough cards to support that, it's a possibility. So, yeah,
it's something that they're not going to expect too, right? So anytime you can do something that's not expected, that really messes with people.
Yeah,
for sure.
We like messing with people.
We do.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's it, isn't it? So, thank you so much for joining us today and for getting all the way to the end. We really appreciate it. If you liked what you saw, please please subscribe, please share with all of your friends our podcast or our video or however you joined us today. Feel free to reach out. Let us know what you're hoping to get in your pre-release packs. You can watch for us on the weekend. We will be at 2 separate pre-releases on 2 separate days, and we are going to live stream here on YouTube our opening of our packs. We'll each take a turn of that and let you see what we pulled and potentially what we are building. So you can watch for that. And what else was I going to say?
We're going to have a lot of fun at pre-release. So.
We're going to have a lot of fun. I love pre-release. Yeah. It's fun. Yeah, we hope that you got something out of this. And in the meantime, tap those magic cards and have fun doing it.
Thanks,
See you later, guys.